It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the morning star drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, February 15th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Tuesday? We've got some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, looking into the book of Psalms, and thoughts of the week of life and death experiences. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Monday's in the books. Well, not just Monday, it's Valentine's Day is in the books. For me, because I am catering more to the Asian, well, I'm putting this podcast out at Asian time. It's still Valentine's Day for me, so I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do. Maybe take my mom out or something like that, because it is Valentine's Day, spending with the times that you love. But what about you guys? What did you guys do? Thank you so much for all your responses on what you guys do for Valentine's Day. It's really cool to hear how you guys celebrate it. And I hope you guys are just enjoying your week in general. It's a really, really good week, a thankful week. And I'm thankful that all of you guys have joined us here on the Morning Star Drive. Yes, we've pushed through 500 episodes. Oh, and yes, someone did point that out. On the video still has the screen for the 400th episode, right? So I will change that for today's. It will all be the new, the new thumbnail will be the new screen for the videos also. So sorry about that. I completely forgot about that. I made the entire thumbnail, but I forgot to change the video picture. But I'll do that for today's for sure. All right. So how are you guys? How are you guys enjoying your week? One thing I do want to just kind of remind everyone, and it's happening really, really awesome right now, is the building of the community, BTC, right? Build the community, keep liking, commenting, want to hear from you guys, see how you're doing. Let's just make sure we can build a platform, a place where all of us can just talk about Providence, talk about the segments, talk about different things in our hearts and our minds. Would love to hear how you guys are doing too, right? So let's build the community by liking and commenting on other people's comments, liking other people's comments, or just liking the video in general, all right? Today's thoughts of the week. I'm going to talk about sometimes that, after listening to Sunseem talk about like the 25 different things of how many times God saved his life, it made me think a lot about the times God saved my life also. And also it made me think about the times where God even prevented me from going to a place where I could have died, right? Or got injured too. So that is really exciting also. So we're going to definitely do that for the Thoughts of the Week at the end of today's podcast. So, and I also hope that it will inspire you guys to contribute something for the Thursday podcast. If you guys want to record something, would love to hear of any story of when you guys were, any of you guys were saved from death from God. Okay. Valentine's Day, like I said, still Valentine's Day as I'm recording this, because I think Asian countries are like half a day ahead of us. So as you guys get this, it's going to post around 6:30 a.m. Korea time, which is still going to be like 1:30 p.m. 1:30 p.m. on Valentine's Day for us, right, over here in the Western world. But it's kind of interesting because I want to celebrate my 500th episode podcast because it's still the day of the 500th episode for me. However, I'm like, oh, what should I do? Like, should I go out by myself? Should I go with my mom? Should I, what should I do for this time here on Valentine's Day? But not sure yet. Not really sure. And I know some people would say like, oh, but what if you go to a restaurant by yourself and then all these other people in the restaurant are all in couples? Don't you feel lonely? And honestly, you got to think about this is every day is just a day until you put meaning on it, right? So like, I'll give you an example. It could be a lonely day is if you put the meaning on the day. Like if you say you have to be with a lover on every February 14th, then it's going to become a lonely day for you. But think about it like this. What about 2/18? This Friday is Resurrection Day, but who puts meaning on it? It's only Providence people. It's only meaningful to us. So we have a day that we put meaning onto. The rest of the world doesn't, right? And in the same way, too, you look at Valentine's Day. it's not a lonely day. It's kind of really just a regular day that the world has put meaning onto, where you have to have some lover or whatever it is to do it. But honestly, days are just days, and it really depends on whether you put meaning on it or not. Put it this way. Every day you go out to, if you went out every single day, you're going to see lovers go out to eat together, no matter what. The only difference is there's a feeling that comes with it only because you put meaning onto Valentine's Day when you don't really have to. So for me, am I really? Nah, I don't really care. I don't. And, the only time it would really matter is if I was married or, if I was married and it really mattered to the other person. I'm going to be super honest. That's the only time it would matter to me. But if they didn't care about it, I wouldn't care either. I could care less about Valentine's Day. It's not even that special if you really think about it. So that's just kind of my thoughts. But, we can put meaning onto it. Like, for instance, spending that time with God, spending that time, writing a letter to God, or spending it in more prayer. Like, even if you want to put meaning onto it, it's all up to you guys. But I'm super, for me, a day is a day. And I'll put the meaning on days that I really think are meaningful. We do have a new talk on Thursday. Thursday night we're gonna have another video episode on YouTube. So I hope you guys will really be able to enjoy those and tell me how those are for you too. I would like to know. It'd be good to hear. Are they helping out? Is it good for you and your newcomers or whatever? I would love to hear for that too. This week's Sunday edition is Blessed Family. Aaron Behick from Hawaii. Great interview, learning about his journey into this history. Super fun, insightful. We get to see the kids. Oh, he's got 3 beautiful kids. I love them, and hope you guys are really, really enjoying it. So make sure to check out the Sunday edition this week. All right. So let's get this show started on the road, right? So we're gonna have our featured artist of the day on this amazing Tuesday. We're gonna start off with Kuma-chung from Japan, and he has a cover of a Providence song, Who Will Comfort Me. You guys know that song, right? So this is the cover for that song, Who Will Comfort Me, from Kuma-chung, and it's featuring someone named Maki, I think. If I can read that Japanese properly, I think it's featuring someone named Maki, okay? So he's going to be our feature artist of the day. Second song will be Ju-Star from New Zealand with I Get Excited, her latest release. She also has another one, came out on the Provi Source, called Chrome, and I'm going to play that one this week too. That's another one that she did talk about during her artist series also. And last but not least, our third song is going to be from Renee Lai in Taiwan. And this is her first original song called I See or I've Seen. Right? So hope you guys really enjoy this and make sure we support, especially with prayer, support all these member artists from around the world.
が主の心を分かって慰めることができるのだろうあの場所で一人きり10年間の歳月を大きな手が助けてくださった全世界を愛し救うために使わされたその方は誰も知ら 誰も主を知る人がいないのに誰が主の手を握れるのだろうかあの場所で一人きり誰の助けもない中顔も体もない大きな手が全世界を愛し救うために使わされたその方を大きな手で助けておられたのセサミの神様全世界を愛し救うために使わされたその方は誰も知らなくても大きな力が全世界を愛し救うために使わされたその方を大きな手で助けておられたのはセサミの神様
Honey, I've been at work all day. It's all slog, no fun and no play. Writing this, so when I get home, we can go through one by one alone. We got Scrabble and Pluto on the shelf. You can name the game something else. We got a world all to ourselves. You know what I'm thinking, walking up to this. I get excited thinking about you, what you wanna do. I get excited, can't live without you, can't live without you. I wouldn't want to. I'm going crazy. I just can't get enough of your love drug. Excited, excited, excited. Yeah, I want you. Hey there, sunglasses, Mr. Cool. You've only got on enough for the pool. Come on in. What is fine and we can take our own sweet time. We got feelings I can't even say. That you can take me all the way. We got forever, no need to rush. Oh, sorry, honey, did I make you blush? It's just I get excited thinking about you, what you wanna do. I get excited, So alive, so alive， 我听见主的声音 ，so clear, so clear， 他的爱融化我心，使我灵魂安然平静。那话语充满能力，使我能看见改变的神迹。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历风雨，一生用尽全心持守我对天地约定。我看见历史前进着 So alive, so alive， 我听见话语满溢着 So clear, so clear， 主的爱始终如一，不曾改变，使我能完全沉浸。主话语确实不必，使我能体会神爱的旨意。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历风雨，一生用尽全心持守我对天地约定。数天的路我越走越确信，感谢圣灵强烈引导我心灵。当代有主同在宝贵时机，我会怀抱感谢忠诚时间到底。主啊，我爱你。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历风雨，一生用尽全心持守我对天地约定。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历风雨，一生用尽全心持守我对天地约定。我看见主的模样 ，so alive, so alive。
And that was Renee Lai from Taiwan with I Have Seen, or I've Seen. Before that was Ju-Star from New Zealand with I Get Excited. And of course, Kuma-chung from Japan, the feature artist of the day with Who Will Comfort Me featuring Maki. All right. So let's get into the news going on around the world. And of course, what are the 3 reasons we need to listen to the world news? As number 1 reason, Sunsim said, through the world events, you can see what God is doing. Secondly, we're able to see the condition of the world. And last but not least, with these depressing or really like horrible things that we also hear, these are things that we can actually comfort God's heart in more than anything else. Okay, so let's start off with coronavirus updates for today. And globally, as from the beginning of the coronavirus until now, there have been 413 million cases with 5.83 million deaths, and the mortality rate is at around 1.41%. Top 5 countries going by daily death rates, and extremely low today. All across the board. Russia's on top, 706 deaths with 197,000 cases. Mexico has 579 deaths and 26,000 cases in a single day. The U.S. with 467 deaths and 31,000 cases. India, 378 deaths and 34,000 cases. And then Brazil rounds up the top 5 with 325 deaths and 57,000 cases. Over here in North America, both U.S. and Mexico are in the top 5, and Canada with 35 deaths in a day with 4,400 cases. So let's take a look at the top 3 news. What's going on around the world? We're back into the Ukraine crisis with Russia. Russia says a diplomatic solution is still possible, thank God. So I hope that all of us will really be thinking and praying about this situation. Russia has said that a diplomatic solution to its escalating standoff with the West is still possible. In a televised meeting, President Putin was told that diplomatic talks had not yet been exhausted. The comments come after more than a dozen nations urged their citizens to leave the Ukraine, and the U.S. said aerial bombardments could begin anytime. Now, Russia has always denied plans to invade Ukraine, despite amassing some 100,000 troops on the border. During another socially distanced TV appearance, Mr. Putin asked his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, if there was a chance to reach an agreement with the West, or whether diplomacy was an attempt to drag us into an endless negotiation process. Mr. Lavrov replied that the possibilities are far from being exhausted. They certainly should not continue indefinitely, but would suggest continuing and ramping them up. Now, the comments are being seen as a clear concession that talks could ease the tensions, but analysts say that without either side moving over the thorny issue of Ukraine potentially joining NATO, there is still deadlock. Now, the Kremlin says it cannot accept that Ukraine, a former Soviet republic with deep social and cultural ties with Russia, could one day join NATO, and has demanded that this be ruled out. NATO's members have rejected this request. Also, at Monday's televised meeting in what some observers see as another possible route to easing tensions, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu told Mr. Putin that some of the country's military drills near Ukraine's border had already ended and others were coming to a close. Meanwhile, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz landed in Kiev on Monday for crisis talks, the latest Western leader to visit the region to show unity with Ukraine. Mr. Scholz said there was no reasonable justification for the Russian military buildup on Ukraine's borders, and that Western countries would impose very far-reaching and effective sanctions against Russia if it invaded. Also on Monday, the U.S. said it had sent 8 more F-15 fighter jets to Poland to take part in NATO air patrols. The U.S. earlier said an extra 3,000 soldiers would be sent to Poland in the next few days to boost NATO military strength in the region. So, everything's still hopeful, and it's something that we can pray about and say, God, why, what is going to happen in this situation? Or, we need to figure out what the will is more than anything else. Who knows? Like, obviously the will never be war, but if human responsibility plays a big role in this, then sometimes it's inevitable. So I hope, the last thing we want ever is war, right? And Sunstein hates war too, because he's been through 2 tours of Vietnam and he sees the devastation of it. So I hope that we can, I'm pretty sure Sunstein's praying about this also. In second news, we'll go to the Freedom Convoy over here in Canada. So the key U.S.-Canada bridge, it reopens after police clear the final protesters. Police say arrests were made and vehicles towed away at the border crossing near Windsor amid rallies against COVID-19 measures. The Ambassador Bridge, the busiest border crossing between the U.S. and Canada, has reopened after police cleared anti-coronavirus protesters who had occupied the bridge for almost a week. The bridge's owner, Detroit International Bridge Corporation, said in a statement that the Ambassador Bridge is now fully open, allowing the free flow of commerce between Canada and U.S. economies once again. Police in Windsor on the Canadian side of the border said earlier that more than 24 people were peacefully arrested, 7 vehicles were towed away, and 5 seized near the bridge that links the city, and numerous Canadian car plants with the U.S. city of Detroit. Police stepped up their presence in the area on Sunday, deploying more than 50 vehicles, including cruisers, buses, and an armored car, while the number of protesters dropped to about 45 from roughly 100 the previous day. For the past week, protesters in trucks, cars, and vans have blocked traffic in both directions at the crossing, choking off the flow of goods on a link that carries 25% of all trade between the two countries. Now, police on Saturday persuaded demonstrators to move the vehicles used to block the crossing, and only 2 pickup trucks and less than a dozen protesters blocked the road to the bridge before police moved in, according to the AP. Now, meanwhile, in Canada's capital, Ottawa, the rally against coronavirus restrictions swelled to about 4,000 people on Sunday, according to police. They basically, a lot of people going out to support their family members, support their countries. And of course, these people oppose the vaccine and mask mandates, right? And, they're not, when you say anti-coronavirus, it's not saying that they don't believe it exists. They just don't believe that the restrictions should be that harsh when it comes to you have to get a vaccine, you have to wear a mask, right? And a lot of people are saying that for school children too, it's good for them to be able to see their friends' faces and emotions and to interact and be more social, especially when the numbers are very, very low, especially when it comes to children, all right? So that is the second news. In last news, we're going to go to Vietnam, and there's some good news here when it comes to a lot of the restrictions happening around the world. Vietnam is going to end COVID curbs on international flights. The Southeast Asian country says it will lift curbs on flights with all markets starting on February 15th, which is today, and Vietnam will remove its COVID-19 restrictions on international passenger flights with all markets starting February 15th with no limitation on the number of flights, the state-run newspaper reported on Sunday. The Southeast Asian country imposed tight border controls at the end of the pandemic to keep out COVID-19 with some initial success, but that dealt a blow to its burgeoning tourism sector, which accounted for about 10% of GDP. Now, Vietnam has already informed its partners about the new policy, and only China has not yet agreed to resume commercial flights with Vietnam. Vietnam had already begun gradually resuming international flights with 15 markets from the beginning of this year, while easing quarantine requirements with vaccinated passengers now needing just 3 days of self-isolation. The Southeast Asian country has recorded about 2.5 million cases since the pandemic began, which is very, very low, and approximately 39,000 deaths. Nearly 98% of its 98 million people have received at least 2 vaccination doses. Think about that, 98%. So they're doing pretty well over there. And yeah, 39,000 deaths over 2 years is actually very, very low, because even if you look at America, that's less than the amount of deaths that people die of the flu every year in America, right? So this is 39,000 deaths for 2 years, and they are 98% vaccinated, which is great news for Vietnam and really good, especially for the tourism sector. I'm really hoping that, I know that it's not just Vietnam. We know that other countries around the world are opening up. Mask mandates and mask and vaccine mandates are being gotten rid of. Vaccine passports are being rid of also all around the world. So I think people are starting to realize that it is endemic, and it's something that we just got to learn to live with, kind of like the flu itself. All right. So that is the top 3 news going around the world, which means that we have sporting news today. So what is happening in the sporting world? And of course, bigger than this, I'm going to tell you right now, bigger than the Olympics, more watched than the Olympics, is the Super Bowl. Super Bowl was was on Sunday afternoon, and it was the home team. The LA Rams defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20. I was going for the Cincinnati Bengals, but the Rams win in this last play of the game. A big sack from Aaron Donald, not a sack, but it was Aaron Donald that was able to disrupt the play. MVP was Cooper Kupp. He had almost something like 93 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns, including the winning touchdown. So he gets the MVP for the game. This game, they say projected total viewers was like 117 million, 117, right? So you're talking huge viewership. And this is why in the Super Bowl, for a 30-second commercial, it costs you $7 million US for one 30-second commercial. That's how big it is. That's how many people are watching it. And now when it comes to sports betting, they said about $7.6 billion were bet on the game. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. I bet on the game too, but of course I don't do anything like serious. I'm kind of just like, I put like $1, $2 on it, whatever it is. And in the end, I won like $14. Because just for fun, and most of the things that I do, like I did like 14 bets, and more than half of them were all were free. Like you don't even put any money down. Some of them were 25 cents. These are just like just for fun more than anything else. In the end, I didn't really even care. So that's the first news. Super Bowl. Congratulations to the LA Rams. It was played in their home stadium, so good for them. In second news, we have the Olympics. So Olympics medal tracker. We have Norway on top, 9 gold medals, Germany with 8, and then the US with 7 gold medals. Some events that you guys might have missed in bobsleigh. There's the monobob for the first time. It's a bobsleigh with just one person. US wins both gold and silver, and Canada wins bronze in the women's event. In curling, women are just out of the playoffs, but they still have a couple games left to play in curling. They beat Russia 11-5, and then they beat Great Britain 7-3. So hopefully they win a couple more games so they can get into the playoffs. In men's, of course, they are on top there. I think they're the reigning champions. Canada defeats Italy 7-3 in preliminaries. In ice dance, I watched this with my parents last night. France wins the ice dance competition, which is very, very graceful. Right, so I really enjoyed that too. And then you have ice hockey, women's semifinals. Of course, Canada defeats the Swiss 10-3. US beats Finland 4-1, and we have another rematch of the women's gold medal match. It's going to be Canada versus US. So really, really looking forward to this one too. Go Canada. And then we have that that. The controversy that happened with one of the Russian skaters, which is the best Russian skater, 15-year-old Kamila Valieva. And what happens is she's cleared to compete at the Beijing Olympics after her failed drug test. But because they still have to go over more of it, the IOC won't hold the medal ceremony if she places in the top 3. And she is favored to win. So far, this is holding the team figure skating event hostage because there's no medal event until they figure out what's happening with her. And then on top of it, it's holding the women's figure skating championships. It'll be held, she's going to win it, obviously. She's so good. And they're going to see if she wins, and that's going to be on hold too. And it's really, really taking away from the Olympic experience, because think about it. You go there once every 4 years, and you won't even be able to have a medal stand, and they won't play your national anthem, and you'll get it way later, right? And after this is all done. So basically, the IOC said that in the interest of fairness to all athletes, there will be no medal ceremony if the Russian teenager places in the top 3 in the women's individual figure skating competition. And they said that they will try to organize a dignified medal ceremony once the case of Valieva has been concluded. So she was cleared to compete in the event despite failing a pre-games drug test, setting her up for an attempt at a second gold medal in Beijing. And one of the reasons is because athletes under 16, they have more rights under anti-doping rules and typically aren't held responsible for taking banned substances. The focus of any future investigation will home in on her personal team, including coaches, doctors, and nutritionists. So, it kind of makes sense because, if you're 15, she's 15 years old. And is she doing it because she wanted to do it? I don't know. But obviously she could be very pressured into doing it. So I do think they should be treated a little bit different. It's kind of like when you go to prison. There's like juvenile court for like people 16 and under. And then after, like or was it 18 and under? And then after you can go to the real prison, right? So it was really interesting to see. But it leaves a really dark, shadow on figure skating once again, especially when it came to the Russians, because they've been through this before. This is why Russia is not allowed to the athletes are not allowed to compete under Russia's name. That's why they call the ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee. It's still Russia, but yeah. We'll see what happens here, but a lot of people are complaining that it's not fair, that she did fail a test, but she's still able to compete, right? So we'll see what happens anyways. So that is the news in sports and the world news, and of course, coronavirus updates for today. All right, so let's get into the golden time, right? So now it's time for us to get a little bit more spiritual. It's time for us to get into our spiritual mind and really be able to give praise and glory to the Holy Trinity. And we're going to start off with the Lord whom I miss. And yes, we do. Especially even in Korea, no one can go to Ulmindong either at this point. So the Lord whom I miss, and then the Lord is by my side. And then we'll end things off with all we lived through from the past to the present. All right. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, to spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
My heart has melted once more. Now I stand closer than before. As I learn more of my love, I have realized, oh my Lord, I miss you. Through your deep love, oh my Lord, my heart has changed and matured. Lord, in you I have found true joy. I give my heart and my affection. I give all my love. I resemble you, my Lord, and grow every day. The love of love, the world of heaven, now it's been fulfilled. Lord, I miss you so. To the end you gave truth and love, then you had to go. Oh my Lord, I miss you. Equipped with love and the truth, I'll use my life for your will. I will live boldly for you, Lord. Through perfect truth and your love, I have realized, oh my Lord, I miss you. Through perfect truth and your love, I have now grown and matured. Now I will sow the seeds of hope as I go out and preach the gospel. As I love you, Lord, I will live as heaven right. I will testify. And now on earth the Lord's ideal role is fulfilled anew. Lord, I miss you so. Lord, I miss you so. Lord, I miss you so. For so long I waited, Lord, and all at once you're here next to me, speaking here beside me. Flooded with emotion, I can't help these tears that fall. How is this real? This is a dream come true.
So many years I've been waiting, I've been hoping. When I saw the Lord was next to me, beside me suddenly, I hadn't seen him come, but then he started speaking, and then my heart was moved. Tears started falling too. It wasn't just a dream, he was right next to me, shockingly suddenly. He came and spoke and met me, and so my heart was moved. Tears started falling too. It wasn't just a dream.
For so long I waited, Lord, and all at once you're here next to me, speaking here beside me. Flooded with emotion, I can't help these tears that fall. How is this real? This is a dream come true.
choice word for the Lord's eternal word of life. And as I confess my love, confess my faith and run, I'll go and act upon all of this eternal love. Cause the person I long to see has come right next to me. Shockingly, suddenly, he came and spoke and met me. And then my heart was moved, tears started falling too. It wasn't just a dream, it was right next to me.
These are eternal words, they are the words of life that you gave me. And Lord, I promise this to you. I'll keep my faith in you. I'll always love you, taking action just as you have. Love of my life, I miss you, Lord. Love of my life, I miss you, Lord. For so long I waited, Lord, and all at once you're here next to me, speaking here beside me. Flooded with emotion, I can't help these tears that fall. How is this real? This is a dream come true. From the past and to the present, all we lived through. All this time the Trinity poured out grace and love. Everywhere the Holy Son was by our side. He protected us with endless love. Day and night the Holy Spirit inspired us. For her love and endless grace, we will thank and love her every day. Even through harsh tribulations, blessings came through the Trinity's deep love. Everywhere that we set our feet, they were loving us and keeping us safe. Just like the Lord, we will love them with all we have, giving our whole body and heart, without changing now forever. We will love the Trinity always. Without changing now forever, we will love the Trinity always.
And there it is. That is all we lived through from the past to the present. And it's a really good song, especially for this week, because we need to look back at all the times we received that grace from the Holy Trinity and how many times our lives have been saved. And we have to look all we lived through in the past to the present. So it's a really, really good reminder for us. Before that was the Lord is by my side, and of course, the Lord whom I miss. Okay, so let's get into today's word study. And of course, every single Tuesday we go into the scriptures of the week, right? And this week's scripture, of course, we have the complete Testament scriptures, but also we have Psalm 23, one of the most famous books in the entire Bible. Okay, now today we have done this one before, and this is why today I'm going to take a different point of view into Psalm 23, and we're going to look at Psalm 23 from the Jewish perspective. All right, so we're not going to look at it what the commentaries on Christianity. We're going to look at it from the Jewish perspective of Psalm 23. You know, Psalm is a book that not just Christians use or Providence uses, but it also the Old Testament uses this too. So let's take a look at it. So Psalm 23, and it begins with the words Mizmor LeDavid, right? And this basically means in Hebrew a song of David, and is arguably the most famous of all the Psalms. And of course, this is made from King David, and he sings about God's protection, referring to God as a shepherd, and he describes how his trust in God never falters, and how even though he walks, like this very famous verse that says, even though he walks through the valley of the shadow of death, he will fear no evil. And God is going to shield him from all harm, vanquish his enemies, and enthrone him in the house of God. So it's just 6 verses, but the psalm is timeless, right? It is used everywhere. I remember that when I was young, in the former faith, when I was like 6 years old, I had to memorize it for a Bible memory. It was a Bible memory contest we had, and of course I couldn't do it, and I cried in front of everyone. Yeah, I didn't know what to do about that. So let's first start off with the history of this psalm. I remember this from the Jewish perspective. So it says that, they say that David composed this psalm while on the run from King Saul, right? And who was intent on murdering him. And of course, he was hiding in the dry Judean forest of Hereth and on the brink of death without food or drink. And of course, miraculously saved by God, who nourished him with a taste of the world to come, right? So David gratefully burst out in song, describing the magnitude of his trust in God. And according to the interpretation of the Targum and Radak, David alludes to how God provided for the Jews every need throughout their 40-year sojourn in the desert, and how they will sing when God returns them to the Holy Land. And David sings not just for himself, but for every single Jew. So throughout the ages and times of both sorrow and joy, millions of Jews gathered strength from this heartfelt psalm, and it really comforted and uplifted them, not only Jews, but also Christians, and it strengthened their trust in the Almighty, right? So the Almighty, who is the faithful shepherd, never forsake them, and basically he looks at it makes them feel that they are the precious flock of God, and ultimately will uplift and exalt eternally in his holy house. Okay, so now let's get into a little bit more. We'll talk about the Lord is my shepherd and why this is important to the Jews. Okay, and we're going to get a little bit more deeper into this shepherd, right? So in the Talmud and the Midrash and throughout Jewish tradition, the idea of a shepherd carries a very big significance, right? So a true shepherd tends to his flock with love and devotion, providing each sheep with exactly what it requires. So many of our leaders started off as shepherds in the Bible, including the 12 sons of Jacob, David, Moses. They were all shepherds. And in fact, it was precisely because of the dedication they displayed to their sheep, nurturing and tending to them with love, that God chose them to lead his people. Okay, so Moses, the greatest of all Jewish leaders, it is described as a Raya Mahimna. What does that mean? It means faithful shepherd. So it's a persona basically that Moses epitomized, both in his capacity as an actual shepherd and as the shepherd of his people. So Moses tended to the people on a personal level, caring for every individual and providing for their needs, similar to how he fed each sheep the type of grass that was most suitable for them, right? So God is, in Psalm 23 it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. I shall not be in want," right? So God is the quintessential shepherd for his gaze never goes away from his flock, which is the Jewish people. And he tends to the individual Jew, ensuring that everyone lacks nothing. And of course, is talking not only to the Jews, but to the Christians and also people in Providence. And he provides everyone with abundant sustenance, physical and spiritual, each according to their needs. And as the psalm continues, it says, God leads us beside green pastures and still waters, right? So, when we have this imagery of a shepherd, especially at the time of the Jews, when being a shepherd, everyone understands the significance of it. You can see that for us too, the Lord is my shepherd is not going to be this, whoa, oh my goodness, this shepherd. But when you talk to a Jew or people who have grown up in that culture and knowing the significance of a shepherd, it is a much bigger deal for us to for the Jews to look at God as their true shepherd. Right? Now, here's that famous verse that says, even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, and you are with me. So basically, that's just, that's saying that even in times of trouble, upheaval, pain, suffering, we will not be afraid because we know that God is with us. So throughout the ages, many Jews have found solace in these stirring words. And through terrible suffering and pain, the immortal words of this psalm echo in our hearts and ears. And that's not just the Jews. Like I said, Christians, Providence is a very, very famous verse, and Sunsim has used this verse many times too. So, it could be to anything where it comes to Jews who have been tied to the stake during the Spanish Inquisition, or butchered in Eastern Europe, or like what happened in World War II in Auschwitz, right? When it comes to what happened to the Jews at that time, also the Holocaust, right? They're saying that the Jews did not cease from murmuring King David's song, Psalm 23. So this portrayal of the Jews' unwavering, unshakable trust in God has stood by with their ancestors in times of sorrow and triumph. So when was this Psalm 23 said? So in addition to being said in times of troubles, when would Jews use this verse? It's usually said or recited whenever there's a sick person, on behalf of a sick person, right? So Mizmor LeDavid, or the Song of David, is most famously sung on Shabbat, right? During Shalosh Sudot, and the third Shabbat meal eaten in the waning hours of the day. Some even say it 3 times, right? Psalm 23. Some, including Shabbat, also say it prior to eating the other 2 Shabbat meals, Friday night and Saturday morning, as well as at the conclusion of Friday night services. So, this is kind of not just for times of trouble. It's also said on behalf of sick people. So that's quite interesting too. So why do people say Psalm 23? So the custom of reciting Psalm 23 on Shabbat before each meal and during the prayers actually comes from the famed Kabbalist Rabbi Yitzchak ben Shlomo Luria. Okay, that's a mouthful, right? And why specifically on Shabbat do they say Psalm 23? As mentioned, the theme of Mizmor LeDavid, or the Song of David, is to trust in God. And therefore, on Shabbat, when they're commanded to rest and they're not allowed to work, they recite this prayer, proclaiming their trust that it is God who provides sustenance to all, and that God is the faithful shepherd who will surely provide. And this idea is especially related to the verse, "You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries." And of course, Nassim says it in a different way, but on Shabbat especially, this is where the Jews use this. And that's why they also say it particularly at the end of Shabbat, when they're about to re-enter the mundane world and toil to earn a livelihood. Additionally, that this psalm helps to strengthen those who are not so confident, who are concerned that their livelihood will suffer as a result of their not doing on Shabbat. And through reciting this verse, they believe that reciting it, you will develop proper trust in God. So, it's interestingly, Kabbalists teach that this psalm has special significance to one's livelihood because it has 57 words, right? The numerical value of the word zan, which means to sustain, and 227 letters, the numerical value of the word bracha, which means blessing. This again reminds us that God is the source of our sustenance. So, perhaps this above mentioned, what we just talked about, is also the reason why we say it. Jews say it specifically before they begin the meals, before they enjoy the sustenance that God bestows upon them. So very, very much used in Jewish culture, right? So what are the other reasons for Psalm 23 on Shabbat? Okay, so here are a couple more interesting explanations on why they recite the Song of David through Shabbat. Now, some of you are like going, well, okay, I get what you're saying, right? But what the heck is Shabbat, right? Like, so Shabbat is a Jewish day of rest. Shabbat happens each week from sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday, which means like Sabbath. Okay, so Jewish people remember the story of creation from the Torah, where God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. And different Jewish people celebrate Shabbat in different ways. So Sabbath more than anything else. So I hope that kind of like clears that up to you, what Shabbat is for the Jewish people. Okay, so here's a couple more interesting explanations that Jewish scholars have about why they recite this on Shabbat. Okay, so Moses also passed away on Shabbat afternoon, and this is according to some opinions. And Moses has mentioned is referred to as the Raya Mahaimna, which means the faithful shepherd. And therefore we say this, Jews say this psalm at that time, affirming that although Moses is no longer with them, they are not afraid because they know that God is the eternal shepherd. So there's one other explanation. Another rabbi or other scholars would say that that this verse in Psalm 23 that says, "You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries," to refer to the manna that God provided for the Jews in the desert. And Shabbat has a special connection to the manna, as a double portion fell from heaven on Friday for every Jew for Friday and Shabbat. If you guys know that, since they could not work on the Sabbath, the day before the Friday, God would send a double portion so they can save it for the next day, so that they can eat on Shabbat without actually going to work, because it was forbidden to work on the Sabbath, right? So this could be another reason why they say Psalm 23 before meals on the Sabbath or Shabbat, right? And they're reminding us of the miracle of the manna and how even now God is providing for them. Right, so it's quite interesting when you see why Jews hold this very, very tightly. But it's not just Jews; it's Christianity. They all hold this, and kind of in the same instance, meaning Christians would use Psalm 23 for a very similar reason of going through difficulties, right? And going through tribulations, or people are coming against you, just like how they're saying it's most likely that David wrote this when he was being chased by Saul to be killed, almost dying of food and thirst, and then God providing for him, and then he recites this psalm, or he makes Psalm 23. So it's quite interesting to see how when you look at the Old Testament, how they see Psalm 23 also, and it's not too far off from what we have. It's just at a different level more than anything else. All right, so that is Psalm 23 according to, I guess, the Jewish perspective of why they would use it. But I found the most interesting point was how they view a shepherd, right? It's very different from us, because none of us were shepherds ever, and it's not something that we would go out and say, "Oh my gosh, I want to be a shepherd." We usually don't, right? And even for in Korean, when you say pastor, I believe the pastor, it basically means shepherd also. Right? It means to shepherd, or the shepherd. So it's quite interesting how even in Korean they use that word for a pastor also. Either way. So that is the word study today when it comes to Psalm chapter 23. We looked at it from the Jewish perspective more than anything else. Okay? So that means we're going to get into the song of choice for today. And what is today's song of choice? Every Tuesday I'm going to play a song from Korea. And this is a great song that I saw from I Can See Your Voice. And those of you guys know this program, it's also in the US too, where they look at people, and they, just by looking at them, they have to figure out if this person can sing or not. It's very fun programming, but it's really amazing because you see these hidden gems come out. And there's this woman, female singer that came out. She sings Shallow from A Star Is Born. Oh, great voice. And she doesn't even sound like she has an accent. But let's take a look at this. I don't even know the name of her, because it just says it's from the 7th episode or 7th season of I Can See Your Voice. So this is from I Can See Your Voice. This is a song, Shallow, from A Star Is Born.
Tell me something. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping so hardcore. I've fallen. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I feel myself. I wanna deep end, watch as I'm diving. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface, really can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. In the shallow, in the shallow. Oh, 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 oh,
And there it is. That is from I Can See Your Voice, Korea, with Shallow. And that's one of the contestants there that, half of them were guessing that she was a great singer, and half of them were guessing she was, that she was like tone deaf, right? So very interesting. I did have to cut it up a little bit because the way the program works, it's filmed live, right? And they want to see the reactions of the people, like the famous singers, when they hear this person sing. And it's really cool but they repeat that front part again and again just to get people's reactions. So I cut it to the last one where it's just her singing. So that's why there is some cutting in and out that I actually do there. But great version of it. She's someone, it doesn't even sound like she has an accent, right? But she does an amazing job of singing this song. And she's doing it on acoustic guitar too. She's playing the acoustic guitar as she sings, all right? So that is a song of choice for today, all the way over from Korea, from I Can See Your Voice, all right? So let's get into our last segment today. And of course, today is Thoughts of the Week. And one thing I really, just coming from the Sunday message, one of the things that I was really thinking about was, if we're to realize the grace we have received, how we've been saved from death, not only just spiritually, but also physically. And Sun's named like 25, 26 different, just those instances. And he could talk even more about it. Like, you could tell he was really thinking deeply about all the different times that God has saved him. And it made me think about myself too, is like, wow, what about the times of me too? Of when I was saved from God, saved from death, right? How many times God has saved me? And I was thinking about a bunch of these different times, and it started from like when I was like 5, 6 years old. And it's really amazing how the Holy Spirit kind of opens your mind. The more you pray and think about it, your heart is opened up, and the Holy Spirit inspires you, like, do you remember this time? Do you remember this time? And there's a couple of them that really came to mind, especially when I was really, really young. One of the times when I believe I was like 5 or 6 years old, and in front of our house, we have this gigantic like oak tree, right? Or is it a maple tree or oak tree? And it was me, my brother, and my brother's friend. And my brother and his friend, like, they were older than me and stronger and more confident than I was. And they would climb this tree up and down, just having a fun time. And one time I was like, you know what, I should climb it too. Like, they're having all the fun. So I climbed it as high as I could, which still wasn't as high as my brother and his friend, but it was high for me. And I reached a point where I realized I was too scared to go down. So my friend and my brother were like, come on, come down. And I was like, no, I'm so scared. And this is what my brother was telling me, this story. And he said, I just let go. I was so scared that in the end, I just let go. And I don't remember this, but my brother said that I fell on my back and my head hit the ground. And then he said he thought I was dead. As crazy as that sounds. They were so scared. They're like, what just happened? And they thought I was dead, right? Wasn't moving or anything else. And they brought me to my bed. And that's when I woke up. Like, I woke up from my bed, like, what's going on? But my brother was saying he thought I was dead. So I was like thinking about that instance. And I was like, oh, well, like, Holy Spirit, why would you make me think about that? But it's like, you know, you were saved even from that point. You know, a lot, when you look at concussion protocols, if someone ever gets a concussion, you make sure they don't go to sleep because they can die, right? When it comes to head concussions, right? So I was directly out, and they didn't wake me. They didn't know about this, and they just took me to my bed, and I was asleep, and my brother was scared I was dead, right? So there's one. I had a similar one that happened another time where. This is why, another time I fell on my head, right? And this is kind of like, oh, that's why, Pastor Sky. That's why you're like that. But this other time I was we moved to, this is even before that time, so this was even younger, where there was a picket fence outside our house, and I would climb it, and then I would gather all the children around and say, look, I'm going to jump. And they're like, no, no, no. And my feet were in between the posts and the picket fence, and it got caught, and I landed on my head. I didn't remember anything. All I remember is waking up and then going into my house. And yeah, I was super embarrassed, but I was like, what just happened? But there's another time I completely blacked out after landing on my head, right? So I was, there's so many times I did some crazy, stupid things. One time in high school, when you get really rebellious, we would climb into the attic of the high school. And this time we went to this attic area that was above the gym. And basically, there was like these 2x4s that were like, the way that they make a roof. So you have to walk on these boards. But in between, there's like, it's soft where if you jump, you'll fall through the roof of the gymnasium. And it's a 50-foot drop because it's a gym, right? And it's a 50-foot drop. And as I'm walking through it, we didn't know about this. And I planted my foot. My foot went through, and I'm about to fall 50 feet, but my friend grabs me at that moment. And we were like, oh my gosh, what just happened kind of thing, right? And I was so freaked out. Dropping that high at 16 years old, I thought, I could lose, I could break my back, I could lose function of my legs. There's so many problems that could have happened, but man, I even think about that now. That roof was so high, and just getting, God help me through my friend, not to fall through. That would have been massive. But probably the big one, I think, for me, when Sunsi talked about, there's many times where God stopped us from going to a place that was dangerous. And this is during my time in Providence, probably from 2000. I think it was either 2006 or 2005 or 2006, and I was in Germany. And there's like two other members of Germany. We are driving in a car, and we're driving a long distance back from Berlin, right? And what happened was, just like Korea, they have these rest stops that are pulled over. Really nice. You can buy food, you can rest, whatever. Do all the things that you want to do. But interestingly, it's I don't know if it was snowing or raining, but it was pretty heavy. So like, hey, let's stop by. So eventually we started to eat, and then we were into this card game, and the four of us were playing this card game for 2 hours at the rest stop. 2 hours. It wasn't a rest stop. We were there for 2 hours, and it was pretty crazy. And we're like, oh man, we just spent 2 hours here. So we get up, and we get back in the car. We start to drive again. And as we're driving down, about 2-3 kilometers down, we see this massive cleanup that's just finishing up of like piles and piles, like multi-car accident that happened, right? And when we were talking about it, we realized that, oh my gosh, that was during the time while we were playing the card games for 2 hours. And this is why, and we were so thankful at the time. I was like, wow, God, you saved us. You stopped us from going down that road to get into that multi-car pileup. And you did it through us playing card games. And it reminds me of when Sunsi was talking to that newcomer, and she kept saying like, come down, this go away from here. And Sunsi was like so bothered by this person complaining. And by the end of it, they get down and she's like, no, I'm fine now. And he's like, what is going on? Like he was like couldn't figure out what was wrong with this girl, but it was God actually doing it, right? And it kind of reminded me of us playing that card game. We were playing that card game for 2 hours, and it was like through that thing that seemed so unimportant, God was able to save us from this multi-car car accident in the snow, right? And after 2 hours, we could see that, wow, we just got there at the end of the cleanup. So the accident happens, police come, and then they have to clean all the cars. And when we came out, it was already, you could see that the accident was just finishing up their cleanup there with multi-cars. So we're like, wow, God really, really saved us from even going there through something so inconspicuous like a card game. So I was super thankful for that too. And there's just so many stories where we're looking at it and saying, wow, God, the grace you gave to us is unbelievable. And we have to be those that really take into consideration and realize the grace we've received so that we can give thanks at all times. So this was even just in the first couple of minutes of thinking about all these times. And I just named off like 4 things to you guys. And we just got to keep thinking about it this week. And I hope that those of you guys, if you want to testify, please send in your either your audios or your scripts by Wednesday, right? It'd be great by because it's going to be on the Thursday podcast. So if you're in Asia, please send it by the Wednesday service, right? Yeah, because Wednesdays. Yeah, please send it by the Wednesday service or Wednesday night. And if you're over here in America or Europe, Europe would be Wednesday would be nice too. And here in let's just say by Wednesday. Let's just say by no, it would have to be earlier. So it would have to be by today, by Tuesday. Yeah, you have to hand this in by Tuesday night. Anytime Tuesday night, right? Then I would be able to work on it. What time would it actually be? Yeah, Tuesday night. If you want to put it onto the podcast, I can read it for you, or you could do an audio. If you have a nice quality audio, that'd be great too. But yeah, I think there's just so many things to think about. Man, can you imagine how many times that we could have gotten into a car accident when we fell asleep at the wheel? Oh my gosh, I can't even name all the times I fell asleep at the wheel. Really, it's so scary to think about driving that fast and almost falling asleep. That reminds me of another time where when I was like 16 years old, my friend, a bunch of us were driving to downtown, and it was snowing, and our car all of a sudden started to spin on the freeway. And the blessing was there were no cars nearby, and we didn't even crash into the median or anything. We just spun around twice, and we're like, what the heck just happened? And we all just went home instead. So yeah, it was, can you imagine? There are so many times. I would really think it's a good time for us to testify and receive grace from these things too. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed those stories, and it reminds you of stories that you went through too. And I hope that it'll be something that we can testify about to the people around us. Pray to God and give thanks to. And if you'd like, go ahead and testify on this channel also. Okay, so that is the last segment for today. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed it. Have an amazing, and awesome Tuesday, and then we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone,